Welcome back to Friar Talk, everyone. Today, we're going to be doing a little farm system update. And of course, we're going to be talking about Ethan Salas first. Title of this video, Ethan Salas will be the Padres' #1 prospect by the end of the season. And I feel like this is maybe was a little bit far-fetched early on. It's, 16-year-old catcher. I want to say he just turned 17 years old, but he's at Lake Elsinore already at 17 years old. And I don't want to say he's had any like crazy success, but he's hanging in at 17 years old, already doing this stuff. And every time you hear his name, he gets hyped up like crazy. He is going to be the main guy in this Padres farm system. And there's some other pieces too that we're going to talk about because for however much everyone wants to talk about the Padres farm system getting gutted, there's a lot of guys that are performing well, especially on the pitching end in this system. But Isaac, first off, Ethan Salas, how excited are you about this guy and him being 17 years old playing at Lake Elsinore, which is just that's A ball. What do you think about it?
Obviously, it's a lot of fun to consider. We actually have a catcher that looks like he's going to really be really good because we had Austin Hedges, who wasn't that good. Francisco Mejia didn't end up being that good. Obviously, we have a black hole at catcher right now, Austin Nola. Luis Campusano is dealing with some developmental problems and injury problems. Gary Sanchez came in to be our savior, but Ethan Salas is definitely more down the road, probably like 19, 20 years old. This past week in Elsinore, he had a 945 OPS. He had 2 doubles. He had 7 walks. So amazing plate discipline, clearly. Everything I've seen about him says that he looks the part of like a top prospect in an organization, like a top 5 prospect. And hopefully we're looking at like our version of like an Adley Rutschman, where he comes in and becomes one of the top 5 catchers in all of baseball. Adley Rutschman probably is the best catcher in all of baseball. And I'm not asking for that. But top 5, hopefully in the future. He everything I've seen, even on Twitter, the videos of his plate appearances, he definitely looks the part of a guy that everyone's going to be excited about in the future. Even right now, all the guys that cover the Padres minor league system, everyone's very excited about him. If you want more information when it comes to these Padres minor leaguers, go look at madfriars.com. That's what I'm looking at because I'm not too knowledgeable about these prospects. But Ethan Salas is definitely a guy that I'm going to be keeping track of because I think Matt and I are both on board that we think he's going to be the top prospect in the Padres organization after this year. He's probably going to be a top 5, top 10 prospect in all of baseball here soon.
100%. And it's just interesting too when you look at a guy that young and you're like, dude, like this is crazy. It's also funny because his ETA is supposed to be 2028. And it feels like the expectation is that it's gonna be before that. It's gonna be like 2026 or 2027, which is crazy, and especially for a catcher, because usually catchers are a little bit later. So feels like he's kind of stepped in this role and he's already playing. So that's pretty nuts. Also in Lake Elsinore, you got Robbie Snelling, who has been an absolute monster so far this year in 41 innings. The dude has a 1.3 ERA and has struck out 48 guys. Barely over a 1 whip at 101, and he has 48 strikeouts to 12 walks. So basically, he is putting up video game numbers. Snelling was a high draft pick. I don't want to say what 2 years ago, a year ago. He was drafted 39th in last year. So he has come in and immediately been playing really well. I wonder if he ends up getting called up to Fort Wayne, or I mean, I probably just Fort Wayne at this year. I don't think he would go any higher, but I think the expectation that him going up to Fort Wayne could easily happen, which would be high A. And then another guy, another big name in A ball as well. Lake Elsinore is kind of a little bit star-studded in terms of prospects there. Samuel Zavala, who he's a little bit older than these other guys. I mean, not really older. He's just been in the system for a little bit longer, but he's 18 years old, super young as well. Right now, putting up pretty solid numbers, mid 700s OPS, really good lefty bat there. Potentially could be a corner outfielder, center fielder of the future. Once again, he's a few years down the road, but his ETA, only being 18 years old, is supposed to be in 2 to 3 years. So another super young guy. You got 3 teenagers right here. that are showing a lot of potential. So in terms of Snelling and Zavala Isaac, what are you looking into them? Are you just kind of hoping they progress and keep moving up the farm at this point? Because I mean, Robbie Snelling's numbers are absurd so far.
Yeah, he has a 1.23 ERA. I believe, from what I've seen, that's the lowest in the Cal League. Yeah, he looks fantastic. He's striking out a lot of guys. Um, I believe it's like a 91%. He's stranded 91% of guys that have gotten on base against him. So striking numbers are really high. The stuff seems like it's pretty good. And just going to keep hoping that 91% stranded is definitely not sustainable, but it's a sign of things like, it's a good sign seeing that he's able to deal with that kind of pressure and have the stuff to be able to strike out multiple guys at a time in big spots. So just gonna keep hoping that the strikeout numbers are for real, like they're a real thing. Like he's that good at striking guys out. As far as Zavala goes, I believe in the month of May he had a 840 OPS, something like that. He hit 282. He looked good in the month of May. That's going to be a guy that I know he has a lot of eyes on him right now in terms of the Padres farm system. He doesn't really get talked about a lot when it comes to like, the top 100 or anything like that. I don't even know if he's in the top 100. Someone let me know if you do know, but that's going to be a guy that we're hoping if he's not in the top 100 now, he's going to be soon. He's going to be a building block for this Padres farm system in terms of hopefully a player in the future, but also the Padres are going to be looking to create some trade bait because they traded a lot of their trade bait for Juan Soto. So maybe this guy could be someone that we're talking about in a future trade.
Yeah, 100%. And just going back to Snelling a little bit, just because I feel like he's been one of the more hyped up guys. I mean, his stuff, he throws mid 90s fastball, gets up to like 97. He actually almost went to college to be a two-sport athlete. He played football too. He's a linebacker and a quarterback in high school. So, I mean, I don't know how much it really matters, but I always think it's cool when a guy's like a multi-sport athlete. It's like just like an absolute beast at whatever he does. But dude, he looks like he could be potentially a front to mid-end starter, and just kind of how he's been projected. Everything has been really positive since he's been drafted. Now, moving up the farm a little bit into Fort Wayne, guys I want to go over Jackson Merrill, of course, your number one prospect there. Adam Mazer. Adam Mazer's also been really, really good. Victor Lizarraga hasn't been quite as good, but he's 19 years old playing in high A, so that makes sense. And then another guy that we've talked about quite a bit in the past. He's been in the Padres farm for since 2018. Went through all COVID and stuff, but catcher Brandon Valenzuela has started to tear the cover off of the baseball, which is really encouraging. I'll start with him too, and then we'll go back around. But Brandon Valenzuela last year, he played in Fort Wayne the whole season. He posted a 209 batting average with a 682 OPS. That was in 345 at bats. This year, he is hitting over 300 and is just below a 900 OPS at a 887, and that's in 109 at bats. So Brandon Valenzuela is a little bit older. He's 22 years old. I think he needs to get moved up to Double A or Triple A soon, because he's a guy that's probably going to end up getting an opportunity on this Padres team in the next couple of years, just because his ETA is 2024. I don't think he's probably not going to get called up unless maybe he's a September call up that year, but 2025 seems pretty realistic for him. And he's kind of been hyped up a lot in the past, so it's good that he's having this bounce back year. Now going up to the other guys, Adam Mazer been a monster as well. Now he was the next draft pick, so he was picked 53rd overall in last year's draft. So he was the next guy taken. He's a little bit older. He played in college. I want to say he went to what is he, South Dakota State? I forget where he went. But he has a sub 2 ERA, 37 innings. He's looked pretty good. Doesn't strike out quite as many guys as Robbie Snelling strikes out, but overall he has like a pretty consistent mix. There was a fastball, curveball, has a really good slider, changeup, and he's just overall pretty consistent pitcher. So he's a guy that is, a college arm that you want to see him come up soon. Chase isn't on with us today, but Chase has been trying to say over and over, we need to start getting college arms. We need to start getting college arms because we need guys to come up quicker. and so, like, not like it's a bad thing to go over like high profile arms, but we need some of these college arms to come in and immediately kind of move their way up the farm system. He could move up the farm system, even this only being, his first year in, like, or I guess first and a half year last year being with this team. He could end up moving up pretty quickly. So encouraging that he started out the season well, because maybe he's in Double A by the end of the year, and then in a couple of years he's in the league already. ETA is 2025 as well. Victor Lizarraga, he's struggling a little bit, almost has a 5 ERA, 36 innings pitched. Thing with him is that he's a guy that you're kind of moving him up kind of fast. He was in rookie ball in 2021, like Elsinore 2022. Now he's in Fort Wayne and high A this year. So we'll kind of keep an eye on him. Gil, who's one of our big time listeners, loves Victor Lizarraga. So hopefully we see some positive stuff from him. And then right now, I feel like this doesn't get talked about as much just because, everyone's got their eyes on the big league club, and, the Padres trade a lot of their farm system. But Jackson Merrill, the number one prospect in the farm system, has been struggling quite a bit. And if you go and look at his game logs, very, very up and down. He'll have a couple games where he has 8, 9 at bats, doesn't register a hit, and then he'll go 4 or 5 or 3 or 6 or something like that, and he'll start hitting really well. But over the course of this season so far, in 191 at bats, he's hitting 257 with a 683 OPS, and his slugging's below 400. So that's the big question, is because he's a guy hits it all around. He's able to go opposite field pretty well, but I think there are some power question marks with him. Now, his overall grades, he has a 55 power grade, so it is positive. But I think that is going to be the biggest question with him moving up the system, to kind of see how good can he be. But Isaac, those 4 guys, who kind of stands out? What are you thinking on those 4 guys in Fort Wayne, where I'm rocking the Tin Caps hat right now?
Yeah, the guy everyone's probably going to want to talk about is going to be Jackson Merrill, just because he is the top prospect for the Padres. He had a pretty good week this past week. He had a 905 OPS, a few home runs here and there. I think they played 6 games this past week, so apparently he looked pretty good. But like you said, he has been up and down. There's a lot of power question marks. Apparently, he does hit a lot of ground balls, which is not what you want to hear when you're a Padres fan, because we've had a guy that hits a lot of ground balls, and it's one of the most frustrating things, to just pound the ball to the second baseman. But he's still super young. We need to get him to hit the ball in the air a lot more. We need to get him to hit those, to be a gap to gap hitter, to get the balls to the warning track. And I don't know if I'm confident the Padres will be able to do that, but I'm sure that there is an organization out there that will be able to do that for him. But as far as him being in the Padres organization, we're going to have to hope that they are able to get him to do that, because what'd you say, like a 257 average? That's not horrible. That's not that bad. Maybe in the minors, especially as a top prospect, it definitely should be higher. But a 680 OPS, I don't want to be harsh. I hate being that person on like a minor leaguer that's still trying to develop. But 683 OPS, that's not going to really cut it when it comes to a top prospect in high A. And this is kind of why, and this isn't a knock on Jackson Merrill. He's still going to be a top 2, top 3 prospect for the Padres. But it's why we think Ethan Salas is going to be the number 1 prospect at the end of the day, because he has all this hype and he looks really good so far. And we think he's going to live up to it. So we do think he will be number 1, but Jackson Merrill being number 2 it's not a bad thing. It's getting knocked out of a spot where everyone says a phenom should be. A phenom will be the number 1 prospect in any farm system. So that being Ethan Salas. But Jackson Merrill luckily had a good week, a 905 OPS this past week, and we're hoping that he's able to keep that up as we go, because whether it be developing him and putting him on the big league roster, or we know AJ Preller might think he's fighting for his job, so packaging him might not be the worst thing either. But I'm looking forward to seeing his journey, because I am a fan of Jackson Merrill for sure.
Yeah, and I do think it's interesting, just like what you're bringing up about Jackson Merrill hitting a lot of ground balls. There have been some power question marks, and also, do want to say, yeah, don't want to be ripping this dude that much. And he's basically, he's younger than us, which is crazy. Like he's younger than us, so I never want to rip on the prospects, and I don't really want it to come across that way. But it's just like, all right, if you're going to evaluate him, you're going to evaluate him. but it seems awfully similar to Robert Hassel, the way that he was described, the question marks there. And I don't know how well anyone's kept up with Robert Hassel, but he's been bad for the Nationals. He has not put up numbers. He's put up a low 600 OPS. I think he's in Double A now. I think he might, yeah, he's in Double A now, and he struggled. And then meanwhile, you got James Wood, who looks like like a next, superstar outfielder because he had more tools, because he had more power. Like it was more of the tools, and he didn't hit ground balls as much. Robert Hassel and Jackson Merrill were very similar prospects in terms of the swing, in terms of they're a lefty kind of contact bat that can hit all across the field, but they're not going to wow you with power. They're not going to they're not going to be this style of player. They're a little bit more similar. So I do find it very interesting that we've almost seen them kind of have the same trend throughout their farm system careers. But hopefully he continues to ride the hot streak, kind of gets going again, because having a 55 power grade isn't bad. It's just that those question marks have kind of started to arise this year. So those are the big ones there. But I feel like besides those guys, a couple of their names to mention. Eggy Rosario just came back. He's playing in AAA, and he's a guy that if someone goes down, if Odor kind of starts falling apart or something, Eggy Rosario is the next man up in that minor league system, and if he wouldn't have got hurt, he very likely would have broke camp with the MLB team, with the Padres team. So see how he looks in minor league coming after. I want to see he like broke his leg. I think he broke his leg, but he's back now. So he's only played in one game. So hopefully he looks good and everything like that. Jay Groom is playing in El Paso. He has got absolutely rocked this season. He has over a 9 ERA in 57 innings. I don't know how much you want to credit that to playing on the moon, but it's been really bad so far for him. Joshua Mears, a name that everyone wants to talk about. He is still putting up the same Joey Gallo stat line that he's been putting up in the minor leagues this entire time. Tons of power, strikes out like half the time. Same situation with him. Jackson Wolf, lefty in Double A. He's put up pretty decent numbers, and he's a guy that could potentially kind of be a Reese Kinnear type call up, maybe this season or next season, where he comes in and kind of spot starts and does some stuff like that. But another name to kind of mention because he could be up on this major league team somewhat soon. And then another guy we'll bring up that could easily come up as a bullpen arm at some point this year or next year is Alec Jacob, who's a righty. He has a super weird arm angle, but in 19 innings so far this year in San Antonio, he's put up a .93 ERA. He has been an absolute beast. And the previous couple seasons, he put up good numbers as well. So super weird arm angle, kind of a funky reliever there. We could end up seeing him kind of relatively soon. But Isaac, outside of those guys, anyone else that you're kind of looking at in this farm system? Anyone that caught your eye?
No, not really. Like I said, I don't know a crazy amount about the farm system. I mostly just keep up with the top guys, but those are going to be the guys that I keeping up with: Salas, Zavala, Merrill, Snelling. Those guys are going to be the main ones that I keep up with. And as far as the rest go, I just it's not that I don't want to keep up with them. Is that the Padres don't really have a track record of making a mid-level prospect into a star, so I just don't want to invest too much time into someone that might not end up panning out for the Padres. But it wasn't really the case last year with like Victor Acosta. We felt like he was going to end up being a top 5 prospect for the Padres. He was just super young, so he was a mid-level prospect at the time. In case you didn't know, he got traded for Brandon Drury. So that's unfortunate. We really liked him, but as far as any other names, no one's really catching my eye. So I wish nothing but the best for them, though.
Yeah, well, I think it's gonna do it, guys. We haven't done one of these in a little bit, so if there's anyone that we missed or anyone that you're looking at, you're like, dude, this guy's actually kind of flying up the system, kind of an underrated name, whatever that is, let us know, and we will definitely discuss him next time we do a little update on the farm system. But I think that's gonna do it. So thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to y'all very, very soon.